いつも動画を見てくださってありがとうございます。前回の動画ですが、一つ訂正がございます。花さんがフィギュアスケートを始めたのが6歳からという話があったのですが、その話をしている時に、6歳でフィギュアを始めたのは技術面では遅かったという話がありましたが、それは私の誤訳です。正しくは6歳でフィギュアを始めたのは、厳密に言えばまだギリギリ若いと言えるでした。解説の重要な部分での誤訳でしたので、こちらの動画にて訂正させていただきます。大変失礼いたしました。それでは、本編をどうぞ。
皆さん、こんにちは。今日はメダリストエピソード2を見ています。毎日日本語を勉強していますから、ちょっと日本語がわかります。日本語コメントも大丈夫です。毎週もっと頑張ります。見てくれてありがとうございました。This is gonna take me back to my coaching days so much. I've told so many kids to stop flying while they skate. It's a workout having your arms out like this at all times and trying to keep them still. Strong. Although figure skaters are known for their arms being very weak compared to the rest of their bodies. Figure skating is so hard. It can be so difficult to make it look easy. That was a double loop, by the way. Sit spin with a feature of reaching forward to get a higher level. You have to work hard to get there. Badge test. All right. A nice opening. That's how they do it in the United States, too, which I would assume, while it's going to be a little bit different, it'll still be very similar. Yeah. And it decides what you compete, like what level you'll compete. I kind of wish we gave out little pins. When I was a coach, we gave out these badges that you had to like iron on to the jacket, so a lot of skaters would just frame them, which is what I did. When I was 6 is when I started skating, and I had a very similar reaction when I got a coach and she told me that we could start working on a program with music, because I thought that was just like the coolest thing, and I tried so hard to be like the skaters I saw on TV and was so like, I'm ready to do this choreography. So just to see her reaction to that and being told that and remembering the excitement of being told that, I'm gonna cry a lot during this, okay? I'm just warning everyone now. Gotta have a villain in this story, right? Or this is just a fake out. Okay, then. This guy looks like bad news. Oh, we're not gonna elaborate? Okay. Usually in a test, you fall once and you're probably not going to pass the test. Is that the girl from the opening sequence on TV? Yeah, I feel like this is the girl that was in that first. So this is an interesting contrast, and it's very realistic. When you meet skaters, so Cleta, I think she's the girl from the first sequence that was on TV, which means she's senior level. Like unless in Japan they do show lower level competitions on TV, which it's very possible that they do. They don't in the States, so there is going to be that disconnect, as I don't know exactly how things work in Japan because I grew up doing skating in the States. But as far as I know, she's the one from TV, and what he just said of being like, if you don't know who we are, then you obviously are new or suck suck at skating, so I'm assuming he's very high level as well. And that can happen. So I found very often there was a definite mix. Not everyone is super mean in the world of skating. You make a lot of close friends, but the higher level you get, the more likely you are to run into people who are not very nice, but also run into people who are very kind. I got to meet quite a few very well-known skaters when I was competing. I got to meet Ashley Wagner, who is a very well-known US figure skater who won the world silver medal back in 2016 multiple times, and she was very, very kind to me. But there were other skaters that I would see from afar or try to approach at times that were very standoffish, not necessarily mean, but standoffish. So there is definitely truth behind both of those. The sport can be very cutthroat, so some people that get high level can become very, very cocky, while some remain humble. It tends to depend on their upbringing and how rich their parents were, how talented they were, because skating's so expensive. So anyway, fun little anecdote there. She went worm hunting. It can mess with your head when someone treats you like that in skating. Figure skating is more than 50% mental. If you can't manage mentally, if something just really breaks you down, it can completely destroy you. So they're there to actually have her test. He's a natural coach. When you're a coach, you have to be able to manage being very kind and helping with their mental side, and also being strict when you need to be, because the sport requires a lot of hard work and discipline. So you have to really be able to manage both sides. You don't want to go too heavy on either side. It's also scary to compete and train and test at other rinks, because it can really throw you off, not having your regular viewpoints. A lot of us need something very specific when we're nervous for skating. Okay, so she is actually testing. Apologize again for the pause. This is another thing that might just be very different in Japan, that I'm wondering if they can kind of skip levels. When I was coaching and when I was skating, and it might very well be slightly different now because I've been removed from the world for a little while and rules do change. When we were having someone test, they couldn't test higher than the levels that they were already at. But you usually can't skip a whole lot, and you usually have to start at the beginning no matter how good you're at. That's how it was with me when it comes to a skater who's already working with a private coach and they're not in a group lesson, which is a different route. Usually you start with a group class and then you gradually work your way into having a private coach, because that's so much more expensive. Or you usually still have to kind of work through the levels. You can't just skip ahead. But again, that's in the US. It could be very different in Japan. They might just have a lot more flexibility with where they just start out with, or the rules might have changed here too. Who knows? We also didn't have to test with a program until much higher up. You could do a double jump. And she's not doing a program, so that checks out. This seems like a fairly early on test. So it seems like they're having her do the very first thing. I remember having to explain that to kids all the time, that they had to put their blade, their weight forward on their blade in order to go backwards, and they were always like, what? How does that work? I'm like, science. That's just the truth. Yay! Good job! Ganbatta! So that seemed like a very early on test, so I think that this checks out with not really being able to skip way ahead. If they were having her already do a test with music, doing jumps, to me that wouldn't feel very realistic, because she would still need to start at the beginning and work her way to the top, no matter how good she is. She's telling her she has to stop in middle school. I don't know the ages in the schooling system in Japan. If she's 11 now, I'd assume that's just a couple years. And they're expensive too. Moms in skating have no chill. That is pretty true. They judge. They sip on their coffee and judge. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I'm telling you, it's the girl. She's gonna go out and do, like, triple jumps. Hikaru. Yeah, clearly a well-known skater. Oh, that's, Ichinose-san. I actually got to briefly speak to her when she came here for a convention. She won the Novice B contest at Japanese Nationals. So again, that could just be that in Japan they might show competitions on TV at that level. They don't here. You'd have to watch it on YouTube. I would not be surprised if it's much more visible in Japan, because figure skating is much more popular in Japan than it is in the States as of right now. She's keeping up. She's trying hard. Looks like a triple Lutz. Lots of hard work. That's a whole new thing to teach. That's way harder to teach than how to skate forward. You can't just skip ahead to the jump she just did, Inori. You gotta work through everything. You gotta wait. It takes a while, Inori. But she was just given a time limit, so... I remember feeling that way for a while. It's also very hard. Not every skater is cut out to be a coach. Just knowing how to skate doesn't mean that you know how to teach it to someone. That's why not every figure skater goes into coaching when they finish competing. It's not for everybody. Maybe homeschool? In America, a lot of skaters will homeschool so they can skate when they need to. But I know homeschooling's not really something that is done in Japan, so... Wonder what happened to her. It's every skater's dream. It's hard. It's hard to get there. Only about 0.01% of skaters will ever get to the Olympics. So next time you see a skater, don't ask them if they've gone to the Olympics or if they're going, because they probably are not. And it can sometimes hurt, because most of us want to. Do I know I'm crying? No. You gotta start with the basics. So that was the Medalist episode 2. Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts. I tried to pause it as little as possible, but still get the point across, because there was a lot of developments throughout this episode that were like very specifically figure skating. So I kind of touched on the testing structure, and I can't speak to that a whole lot just because I know that the testing structure in Japan is going to be very different from the testing structure of here. A lot of parents also do give their kids kind of that like time limit where you can skate until X, because the reality is, and this mom knows that, and I'm assuming this anime is going to push against that because this is an anime after all, but the reality is for 99.99% of skaters, it's not really going to lead into any type of like successful career outside of coaching or being in shows. The skaters that are the elite at the Olympics and at Worlds and on the Grand Prix is really a very small amount of skaters that can get there because it requires so much talent, time, and money to get there. At least in my country, everything is very expensive and there is no help with anything like government-wise. I know there are some countries, Russia comes to mind, where this kind of stuff is like state funded. I don't really know exactly how it is in Japan. I think that once you maybe hit a certain level, they might help out with it. And that does kind of happen in the US. However, it is not nearly enough. So, and you have to get like very high level to get sponsorships. Like you already have to be at the senior level and doing well on TV to get sponsorships. So it can be very difficult. The sport is just not designed for success. Like honestly, I would like to see a change in that. I would really like to see there being more options to make it more accessible, especially in the US, just because it's like a dying sport in the US, and that's because it's one of the most expensive sports. And you know, with especially the way the economy here is now, like it's nearly impossible. I had to take a break for 3 years from the time I was 13 till the time I was 16 because my parents could no longer afford it, and I was only able to start it back up when I got a job of my own and only skated when I could because I worked a part-time job and I could only afford like one lesson a week. And that's when I kind of started seeing like people 16 were doing triples and at the Olympics while I was doing a double Sauerkraut if I could. So it's definitely a very realistic depiction of that world when that mom just kind of told her, I'll support you until middle school. But if, you know, I think that she kind of is giving her a time limit of when you can prove yourself or something along those lines. I don't know how far her sister got with levels, but you know, it's pretty clear that she got pretty far if she was doing hard enough jumps that she could get a career-ending injury from jumping. So I'm excited to see her start to learn the jumps. Obviously, she's not going to be able to do the jumps that Hikaru is doing because she did what I believe was a triple Lutz. They changed the angle, so I couldn't really count the rotations. It was definitely a Lutz. It was either a double or a triple, and you have to first learn waltz jump, Sauerkraut, toe loop, loop, flip, then Lutz is the last regular single jump you learn, and then you learn the axel, which is the big one. That is the first really big hard thing to get through because it's 1.5 rotations, and then you have to do all those jumps again, but doubles, double Sauerkraut, double toe loop, double flip, double Lutz, and then double axel, and then you can get to triples, and so on and so forth. That's just how it works. It is nearly impossible to just accidentally do a double jump or a triple jump. I've never seen that happen. You have to start at the beginning and work your way to the end, no matter how talented you are. And usually the higher level you get, the more the hard work comes into play and the less the talent comes into play.
それでは今日出てきた英単語を振り返ってみましょう。
Workout.
この単語は運動するまたは問題を解決するという意味があります。文脈によって使い方が異なりますが、フィットネスや問題解決の状況でよく使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
He works out at the gym every morning.
彼は毎朝ジムで運動している。
We need to work out a solution to this problem.
この問題の解決策を考え出す必要がある。最近は日本でももっぱら筋トレ的な意味でワークアウトということが増えてきましたね。私も週2回ぐらい筋トレしていますが、いろいろとやる気がみなぎってくるのでおすすめですよ。
Compete.
この単語は他者と競争する、または競技に参加することを意味します。スポーツやビジネス、学問など様々な分野で競争する状況を表現する際に使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
She will compete in the National Swimming Championships.
彼女は全国水泳選手権に出場する予定だ。
The two companies are competing for market dominance.
その2つの会社は市場の支配権をめぐって競争している。一昔前は子供に競争させないみたいな風潮がありましたが、今はどうなんでしょうか。結局は社会に出たら競争するしかないので、やっぱり競争で勝ち抜くための能力やマインドは子供の時から育てた方がいいと私は思います。
Choreography.
この単語はダンスや舞台芸術での振り付けを意味します。ダンスの動きやステージでの演出を計画し、編成する作業を指します。バレエやミュージカル、コンサートなどで使用されます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
The choreography for the musical was stunning.
そのミュージカルの振り付けは素晴らしかった。
She studied choreography at a prestigious dance school.
彼女は名門ダンススクールで振り付けを学んだ。フィギュアスケートの人って技術ももちろんすごいですが、ダンスの振り付けまで考えなければいけないので本当にすごいですよね。体だけじゃなく、芸術的なセンスも含まれる総合競技って感じがします。
Upbringing.
この単語は親や家庭環境による子供の養育やしつけ、成長過程を意味します。子供がどのように育てられたか、家庭での教育や価値観の形成に関する話題で使用されます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
His strict upbringing influenced his disciplined lifestyle.
彼の厳格なしつけは彼の規律ある生活スタイルに影響を与えた。
She credits her positive upbringing for her success.
彼女は成功の要因として自分のいい育ちを挙げている。これはセカストの経験ですが、問題のある子供の親はやっぱり何かしらおかしいところがある可能性が高かったです。全員がそうだとは言いませんが、やっぱりしつけって大事ですね。
Mean.
この単語は意地悪な、不親切な、または冷酷なことを意味します。人の性格や行動が他人に対して不親切で攻撃的な場合に使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
She can be quite mean to her classmates sometimes.
彼女は時々クラスメートに対してかなり意地悪になることがある。
Don't be so mean. Try to understand his situation.
そんなに意地悪にならないで彼の状況を理解しようとしなさい。フィクションだとちょっと誇張した部分もありますが、意地悪な人って現実にもいますよね。子供だけだと思いきや、大人の人も意地悪な人がいるから大変ですね。皆さんは意地悪な人にならないでください。
Throw off.
この表現は誰かを混乱させる、または計画や予測を外すことを意味します。予想外の行動や出来事により、相手の計画を狂わせる際に使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
The sudden change in schedule threw everyone off.
スケジュールの突然の変更でみんなが混乱した。
Her unexpected question threw me off during the interview.
彼女の予期しない質問が面接中に私を混乱させた。いつもと違うスケートリンクだといろいろと混乱するっていう話がありましたね。皆さんはいつもと違う環境や道具だと本来の実力を発揮できないってことありますか？私はせいぜい枕が違うと眠れないってぐらいかもです。
Cocky.
この単語は自信過剰で生意気な態度を意味します。他人に対して傲慢で自己中心的な振る舞いを指す際に使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
He's so cocky that he thinks he can do no wrong.
彼はとてもうぬぼれていて、自分が間違うことがないと思っている。
Her cocky attitude made it hard for her to make friends.
彼女の生意気な態度が友達を作るのを難しくした。あの金髪の男の子はその態度や言葉遣いからかなりうぬぼれてる感じが出ていましたね。まあ子供のうちはそれなりに許せますが、大人になってあれだったらきついですよね。っていうか、コーチや親がそこを指導しないといけませんよね。
cut out to be.
この表現は特定の仕事や役割に向いている、または適性があることを意味します。特定の職業や活動に対して自然に適性があることを表現する際に使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
He is cut out to be a leader.
彼はリーダーに向いている。
I don't think I'm cut out to be a doctor.
自分が医者に向いているとは思わない。司くんはもう第2話の時点を見る限りではコーチに向いている人だと言えますね。いのりちゃんに話しかける時にもかがんで視線を合わせてるのも自然にできていましたね。たまに熱くなって変になるのが傷ではありますが。